Imagine a warplane so badly designed. The pilot had to fly it almost blind and eject the propeller before landing. Welcome to the Hüter HU-136, perhaps the most absurd aircraft concept the Nazi Luftwaffe ever considered. What could possibly inspire two brothers, known for crafting sleek gliders, to suddenly build an armored dive bomber where the pilot peers out through tiny slits like a submarine commander? The answer: 1938. The clock is ticking, Europe teeters on the edge, and the Reich Aviation Ministry is hunting for a new wonder weapon, a ground attack aircraft that can crack open tanks, shield troops, and survive enemy fire. We need something small, tough, indestructible, and damn dangerous. That's how the order probably sounded. And the Hüter brothers? They volunteered. Not fighter pilots, not bomber veterans, just engineers designers of whisper-quiet gliders now being asked to create a flying tank. But for them, the challenge wasn't just about war. It was about creating something completely new, a plane that broke the rules. No landing gear, no wide-angle cockpit, no compromises. In the shadow of giants like Henschel and Focke-Wulf, the brothers embarked on a secretive mission, codenamed Ostmark. A bold attempt to fuse glider DNA with the war machine muscle. And they came dangerously close to creating something grotesque. They set out to build a plane that flew nearly blind, but could survive direct hits. They called it HU-136, and what emerged on their drawing board wasn't a typical warplane. It looked more like an armored torpedo with wings. Compact, ugly, and wildly ambitious. And speaking of ambition, before we dive even deeper into this insane design, just a quick reminder. If you're enjoying this video, tap subscribe. It costs nothing, but fuels the content you're watching. Thanks a lot. Now, back to the HU-136, and that burning question, why on earth would anyone eject a propeller before landing? At first glance, the HU-136 looks less like a fighter and more like a flying bomb, or maybe a submarine trying to grow wings, and honestly, that's not far off. Because what the Hüter brothers built was no classical beauty. It was stubby, heavy, brutal, a flying anvil. At the nose, a Daimler-Benz DB601 engine, a real legend, liquid-cooled V12, 1,200 horsepower. The size, surprisingly compact, just a 6.5-meter wingspan and 7.2 meters in length. For comparison, that's much smaller than an FW-190, yet it weighed 3,700 kilograms. Why so heavy? Armor, bombs, and an idea that aimed too high. Its wings were straight with a slight upward tilt, that's called dihedral, helping it stay level in flight. Sounds smart, and it was, but everything else about the plane? Let's call it coronado creative. No landing gear. To save weight, the Hüters ditched the wheels entirely. The HU took off from a detachable trolley that dropped away after liftoff. Landing? That's where it gets wild. The propeller had to be jettisoned. Yes, seriously, right before touchdown the prop would blast off, drifting to the ground beneath a small parachute, hopefully intact. Then the HU slid in on a retractable skid. Sounds risky? It was. If anything went wrong, no second chances. Go-arounds? Impossible. And the pilot? He sat all the way in the tail, cramped inside a steel pod. No canopy, no visibility, just a narrow slit up front and two tiny side holes. You don't fly it, you feel it, you might say. Except in bad weather. He couldn't even do that. But the HU packed a serious punch for attack missions. The first prototype, Stubo-1, carried a single 500-kilogram bomb externally, plus likely 2 or 3 machine guns. Their exact placement? Still debated. Probably one firing through the propeller and 2 embedded in the upper engine housing, enough to shred ground targets, but in the air? It was as blind as a bat. Then came Stubo-2, even more ambitious. Longer, heavier, a 2-seater. This one carried 2 500-kilogram bombs inside the fuselage. Sounds lethal, but aerodynamically it was a nightmare. The wings stayed the same size. The added weight in the rear made the whole thing unstable. No wonder it was never built. And still on paper it looked impressive. Top speed, 560 kilometers per hour. Range, 2,000 kilometers. Ceiling, nearly 10,000 meters. For a ground attacker, amazing. For reality, not so much. This was a steel vision, just not one meant to fly. No matter how great the stats looked, the HU-136 was ultimately a tightrope walk between brilliance and madness. And unfortunately, it tilted hard toward madness. Let's start with the obvious, the view. Or rather, the lack of one. The pilot sat far in the rear fuselage, locked in a steel cocoon, no glass, no overview, just that front slit, two tiny side ports. If you've ever tried driving a car while peering through a mail slot, you'll get the idea. To make matters worse, the cockpit's rear placement meant no downward view. No visual target, no terrain awareness, and for an aircraft meant to hit ground targets? That kind of kills the whole dive bomber idea. But wait, it gets even better. Or worse. The landing. No propeller, no go-around. No, just one more loop. Every landing had to be perfect, every time. One bad approach and that's it. Game over. No bailout, no backup. An aircraft that literally shoots its own propeller into the sky before landing might not be ready for mass production. And then there's the weight. With bombs and armor, it was as heavy as a freight car, but handled like a sand dune, not a nimble hunter. Just a flying brick. In low flight, hard to steer. In turns, sluggish. And blind the whole time. The Reich Aviation Ministry took one look and shook their heads. Interesting, inventive, but completely unusable. Instead, they went with the Henschel HS-129. No lightweight either, but at least it could fly. It was deployable. And crucially, had a cockpit where the pilot could see more than just engine housing and clouds. And the HU, it disappeared. Almost. Rejected, cancelled, filed under, too risky, too clumsy, too weird. The HS-129 got the contract, it went into service, and the HU stayed a sketch, a footnote in aviation's margins. But not forgotten. Plane fans, collectors, model builders they don't forget. The H-136 still haunts reference books on secret projects, online forums, and aviation daydreams. It shows up wherever people ask, what if? And sometimes that's enough to make a plane immortal. Then, nearly 80 years later, something incredible happened. In 2017, a faithful replica of the HU-136 was built in the United States. At the Military Aviation Museum in Virginia Beach, it became part of the German Experimental Aircraft Collection. And there it stands with its blunt nose, narrow wings, that grotesquely armored tail, not made to fly but to inspire awe, and maybe a little fear, because it's more than a failed project. It's a lesson, a reminder of how bold technology can be, and how dangerous when it forgets the human inside. It wasn't made for pilots, it was made for charts. Not for missions, but for theory. Too early, too hard, too extreme. That was the HU-136, a plane almost as dangerous for its pilot as it was for the enemy. Absolutely insane. Absolutely fascinating. If you love stories like this about machines too extreme for the real world, consider subscribing. Don't worry, we won't toss a propeller at your head, but we will keep landing wild aviation stories in your feed. Deal? Now tell us, would you have climbed into the HU or backed out the moment you saw it? Let us know in the comments. We read them all. Until the next flight. And remember, great ideas take off. Bad ones, they end up in museums.